Hi, my name is Jessie Lennard, and I'm a Senior Director in the Global Strategic Initiatives team at Visa, leading on data and AI. I'm thrilled to be here today talking to you at the AI and Finance Summit, thanks to Rework. At Visa, we believe that AI has huge potential in finance and payments, but only if we put the people whose lives are affected by these technologies at the heart of everything we do. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. I'll share my screen with you in a second so you can see the slides. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the presentation. So finance in general is a highly trusted, highly regulated sector. And our digital payments business straddles finance and technology. So we don't have customers like banks or merchants do, but the scale of the Visa network and the brand trust we've built means we have a unique responsibility with data and AI. So if we can't identify a real value to people of what we're thinking about doing, if it could diminish trust in us and our brand in any way, we go back to the drawing board and we start again. So this is a really exciting slide. What this shows is that the top 5 payments trends are all data-driven, and each of these holds fantastic potential for AI. So what are we seeing? Well, over here on the left, payments now can go straight from a consumer's account to a merchant's account with near real-time notification. Purchasing can happen at any time, any place, physically or digitally, and checkout is now a launchpad for customer engagement. Messaging apps are evolving to include payments, which adds the possibility to build context and offer recommendations. Blockchain is growing. We've got several projects and partnerships in that area. And of course, APIs, which are the building blocks for innovation and collaboration. And we built the Visa Developer Platform to facilitate that across our network. All of these areas offer potential for AI. And we're absolutely convinced it's going to be AI which powers the next generation of payment solutions. So a little bit about AI at Visa. So we're a payments network, not big tech, but we were early adopters of AI because the most important part of being a globally trusted, always-on network is safety and security 24/7, 365. So we pioneered the use of neural networks for real-time risk-based fraud analytics in the early 90s. And it's been a part of the fabric of Visa ever since, helping us to get better and faster at problem solving, improving the value and user experience for our clients, and making the entire ecosystem more secure and more reliable. So what you can see here is what we describe as the building blocks of AI at Visa. So on the left here, this is the scale of the network. It just gives you a sense of the power of the data that we process. Millions of merchants, hundreds of countries, hundreds of billions of transactions a year, up to 65,000 a second now the network can process. We have thousands of employees working on innovating in AI, and our financial investment goes up every year. So putting all that together, our data combined with low latency architecture and unique modeling capabilities means our technology platform is among the most powerful for AI. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the specific examples of what we do with AI. So to touch on a couple of things that I've got here, network resilience is unbelievably important. So VisaNet is a hugely complicated, and even for a few moments, we cannot lose connectivity. So AI helps us predict and identify and avert any operational issues before they occur. Cybersecurity and fighting fraud, machine learning is especially helpful here, identifying patterns and learning across vast transactional records to identify anomalies and respond to threats. So for each of our 200 billion transactions last year, we evaluated 500 attributes in about a millisecond. Visa Account Attack Intelligence is a good example, and Visa Advanced Authentication, which prevented an estimated $25 billion in fraud in 1 year through real-time risk scoring. Customer insights, this is a hugely exciting area where we use AI and ML to support our clients and partners. So that could be helping open up new markets, creating deeper consumer engagement and understanding, so services and products are better designed, more personalized, better timed. And then social impact. This is a fantastic opportunity for AI in finance and payments. We can look at addressing socioeconomic challenges like poverty and inclusion and sustainability. And with that deeper consumer engagement I talked about, it becomes easier to empower and encourage consumers towards socially beneficial behaviors, like ethical consumerism or charitable donations. Now on here you can see I've put increasing access to credit. This is incredibly important as part of the socioeconomic impact piece. And our model can help identify lowest risk cardholders within a bank's customer base, so they can expand credit to those who ought to have it but can't get it. So these are just two examples from the previous slide in a bit more detail. Travel Predict, you've got over here on the left. So we build a lot of behavioral propensity models, but this particular ML tool that we built in the Visa Analytics platform is actually great for helping clients predict travel behavior specifically. And that means they can target the right offers to the right customers at the right time. It could be a loyalty program, discount on a hotel stay, targeted products like travel insurance, and it also helps them handle airline purchase fraud better by predicting travel patterns. And the second one here you can see is stand-in processing. So banks usually authorize transactions themselves, but where they can't do it for some reason, like an outage, Smartest STIP uses deep learning to analyze how they responded in the past and generates approve or decline decisions that Visa can take on their behalf, meaning for you and I, uninterrupted customer experience. Building trust in AI. So we in the AI community are all aware of multiple cases, real or theoretical, where AI can go wrong. And these risks are now increasingly seeping into the public consciousness too. In some cases, it's a matter of needing to explain the logic of automated decision-making better. In other cases, the message needs to be more clearly communicated that AI brings a tangible benefit to people. And in some cases, the use of these technologies is increasing even as they are failing. And that, of course, has a knock-on effect on public support. Overall, consumer understanding and confidence just isn't rising at the same rate as the use of AI. So as we start to really scale AI, we have to make sure we're really protecting, empowering, and benefiting people through doing so. Okay, so this McKinsey graph is actually great because it shows healthcare and financial services are actually seen as the most trustworthy sectors when it comes to data handling. So that's a brilliant opportunity for finance and payments to be best in class when it comes to responsible, ethical use of AI. But there are also reasons why consumers may mistrust AI in finance. And I've listed some of them down here on the right. So I want to focus on algorithmic bias in particular, which is perhaps the greatest risk. It could be gender or ethnicity bias in credit scoring or loan decisioning. It could be which adverts you see, and there have been some high-profile cases of digital redlining, where people from different ethnicities were actually served different ads for financial products. Now, I talked earlier about how AI can increase financial inclusion and access, but used wrongly, it can result in the opposite. So I want to focus for just a second on regulation, because the policy community is currently debating how best to govern AI, and in particular, whether it needs its own framework. But it's really important to understand AI isn't its own sector. It's a tool that we use in many contexts across many sectors. And some of them, like finance, are already highly regulated. So multiple areas of existing regulation are likely to cover AI already to some extent. And it's really important that first we take a proper look across all that governance that might already be applied or adapted or interpreted for AI, and work out where the gaps and inconsistencies are. Otherwise, we could end up with confusion, overlapping, overburdensome rules, and that, of course, harms investment and innovation. So how do we in finance do this right? On this slide, you can see a bit about how we think about it at Visa. And as I said earlier, it all comes down to human centricity. retaining empathy, and being conscious of what we're doing every step of the way. In the end, technology has no inbuilt morality. We have to design that bit in. And there are no right answers. But it's the difference between we can do this and we should do this. And it's a job only humans can do. So yes to innovation, absolutely, but only when underpinned by privacy, ethics, and safe, responsible practices. So key to this, we think, are explainability, clear accountability, and fairness. Because when we think about this as people, we know that without these things, we can feel helpless or even angry that a decision was made affecting us, which we don't understand and we can't challenge. So people need to consistently experience fair outcomes that uphold their fundamental rights and deliver real value to them if they're going to trust AI. So if you want to be human-centric, you start by asking people how they feel. So we engaged in a large-scale global research exercise to understand consumer attitudes to data use in AI, and it was fascinating. So what did we learn? Globally, approximately half consumers believe they have no or limited control over how their data is shared or used, which obviously leads to caution and skepticism naturally. The majority of people in every market told us they were at least somewhat concerned about data use. And across all markets, only a small minority of consumers fully understood how their data was being used at all. Like the earlier McKinsey study, consumers are most comfortable with traditional financial institutions and payments networks, which is fantastic. But the flip side of that is that they told us financial data is the category they worry about the most. We also asked people in the UK specifically about AI. And on this slide, you can see what they told us. So across all demographics, many people told us they actually want to know more about how a model works. They acknowledge they don't fully understand today, but they want to know what specific data elements were used and how. How can they affect the outcome and engage the business to challenge a decision? Especially, how can they generate a different outcome next time? They also told us they understood that liability when something goes wrong is not clear-cut, but ultimately they had quite clear ideas when they told us that the company using AI to make the decisions was the one they felt ultimately responsible. And they also told us that they would really care if companies didn't at least consult people like them when they were building AI. So overall, it's fair to say people today don't know enough about AI to trust it, but they told us loud and clear that they wanted to understand more. So this slide is last, but really it is the message that I hope that you take away with you today. Keeping people at the heart of AI and finance means making ethics, governance, diversity and inclusion your absolute priorities. As I said earlier, ethics isn't simple and you can't legislate for it. But as a company, we think extremely hard about it, and especially about the principles that you can see here. Security, so people can have confidence in us holding and using their data. Being accountable, including for fairness, diversity, and inclusiveness. Providing clear, simple explanations. Empowering people with that sense of control and choice, which we know builds trust. And most importantly, ensuring our use of AI actually benefits individuals, businesses, and economies. And then it's about embedding and consistently applying these throughout the organization and making sure they work in harmony with other frameworks like legal, operational, and risk, which are all absolutely critical to good governance. Councils and committees are also very useful for tricky ethical issues and new use cases. Last, but certainly not least, without diverse teams all the way through the business, we will not be able to create truly inclusive, fair, and innovative AI solutions. So that's it. There's one clear message to take away from today's presentation. It's that AI is powerful. Data is powerful. And with responsible, ethical practice, innovation, and ambition, we believe we can make AI in the finance and payments industry a race to the top. Thank you so much for listening.